Mhm. I think we're live.
Yeah.
So welcome everyone. I assume there's people out there. I'm Vanessa Milton. I'm the ABC Open producer for Southeast New South Wales, based in Bega. This is Tathra behind me. Um, we're here today to talk a little bit about what we do, and it's really exciting to take part in this kind of digital virtual forum because we feel a big part of what we do is connecting writers and other storytellers via an online community that we've set up over the past few years. I'll introduce the others that are going to take part in this session. So we've got Emily Bissland. So say hi, Emily.
Hi.
Emily's my counterpart in Warrnambool, so she's also worked in Mount Isa as an ABC Open producer. We've got Jessie Ansons. Hey, Jessie.
Hello, everybody. Very excited to be here.
Jessie's a writer. She discovered ABC Open a little while ago, 2 years ago maybe,
Yep.
And she's written quite a lot of stories and published them and getting quite a following on our website, so we wanted to hear from her side of the experience. And Ian Walker is one of our executive team in Sydney. Hi, Ian.
Hello.
And we're going to talk to Ian
everyone.
about... Did we see you? We're going to talk to Ian about what opportunities there are for stories to travel across the ABC. So if you publish on the ABC Open website, that's just the start of it as far as we're concerned in terms of the platforms that we have access to within the ABC. So just a quick background on who we are and what we do. We publish non-fiction stories told in all media, basically, all digital media, by real people, not just media types like us, and we help people get their stories to broadcast through workshops. We have the main platform we have is our website, abc.net.au/open. So we provide a platform, we provide an online community, so we do encourage people to get to know each other and comment on each other's work. And we also provide workshops and projects. So workshops are concentrated in regional areas, that's where the producers like me and Emily are based. But we do also get a lot of metropolitan people contributing and publishing on our site, which is great. And the other big thing that we do is structure our work around projects, and the idea there is, I guess, to give you the impetus to get writing. So propose a question or a theme for you to write to, and often the turnaround's pretty fast, so you don't agonise over it for too long. So we've got a monthly writing project called 500 Words, and that's kind of memoir writing on different monthly themes, and the idea is that it should be a theme that anyone could have a story for. We've also got opinion type writing. We've got a project called Open Drum, and that's, at the moment, that's a 2-week turnaround, so we'll launch a new theme every 2 weeks, and usually that ties in with current issues that are making the news, and a number of other more tailored projects for particular experiences. So for instance, we had a big push for Mental Health Week last year, and that went all across the ABC. And we had a great project called Speak Your Mind, and Ian will talk to us a bit more about some of those tailored projects. They've been very successful. Not much more I wanted to cover. Writing is huge for us. We do publish a lot of videos, help people make videos, broadcast them on TV, and also radio and photography, but writing is a really, really big part, and it seems to be getting bigger and bigger. I just wanted, before I move on, I am the MC, but I just wanted to share a couple of things with you before we move on to talk with Emily. This is a... let me find where I'm going. So just as an example of how I talked about stories do appear elsewhere on the ABC, some of my favourite projects so far with 500 Words, we've partnered with Life Matters, and so on a regular basis we produce stories for radio read by their writers. That's something we're really proud of, and this is just a beautiful example. It's one of my favourite ever stories in written form, but also the sound production, Helen reading it. It's incredible. So we've tweeted that out. If you're following us on Twitter, check that out, or just Google it when you get a chance. That reminds me, I'll come back to these, but we've got a lot of action happening on Twitter at the moment. I nearly forgot to tell you. So here are the details of how to follow the conversation, because we'll be any links we talked about today, we'll post them on here, and also we're really keen for anyone out there watching to send through questions, and we'll get to all of them. Hopefully we'll answer whatever questions you'd like asked. And just a couple of other things I was desperate to include in this conversation. I'll just return to share the screen with you. Here we are. So where am I? This is, I hope you're seeing this. This is just an example of some of the events we do. So we also showcase writers wherever we can on the ABC, but we also do live events in our communities, and this is one that I did at the Candelo Village Festival, tiny little town. We sat in the dark in the town hall and listened to scary stories produced with soundscapes. That was really fun, and it was scary. And then this is another example. We're very passionate about bringing voices to the mass media that haven't been heard before, and a lot of that is writers who've never written in the first person before, never shared their own story. So this is an example from my region. Cherie Mitchell hesitated to come to a workshop. She felt she didn't have anything to share, and came out with this incredible childhood story that we turned into a 3-part memoir and published. And if you read it and then read the comments at the bottom, and you'll just see how many people were moved by that, and what an incredible experience that was for her as well. So now I won't hog any more time, but we'll hear next from Emily. She's going to tell us a little bit about what the experience is like from the ground up. How do we find writers, what happens in workshops, I guess, and some experiences that she's had with people in the community. So hi, Emily.
Hi. Yeah, okay, so I am an ABC Open producer like Vanessa. I live in Warrnambool, and my region covers the Great Ocean Road, so, and towns like Portland and Port Fairy, if you know them. So yeah, I'm on a pretty good junket down here. But I did start off in a more challenging place, which is Mount Isa in northwest Queensland. Very remote community, hot, dusty, and I was working with very different people there as well. So even just from those 2 places that I've worked, I guess you get a sense that we are spread across Australia, and there's 36 open producers at the moment, and we're in really far-flung places like Broome and Karratha and Bundaberg, Mackay, and so the stories that you read on ABC Open are they're true blue, you know. They really are from regional Australia. So I guess what we do as open producers is find those stories, find the people who want to tell those stories, and workshops is the primary place that we do that. We do sometimes get submissions just from online, people who are already online and people who can use computers well and are looking for a place to write. Will sometimes just submit a piece. But for me, primarily, a lot of my writers have come from these workshops. So we'll put a call out, we'll email everybody, we'll put it on Facebook and other social media like Twitter, and then just wait for the people to come. That's how we do an open workshop. Other people actually have writers groups or have regular workshops where people have been coming for a year now, the same people, and just writing a story every month for 500 words and using those themes to find inspiration for their story writing, which is pretty cool. So I guess whilst we're in different places and we work with different community members, you know, when I was in Mount Isa, I was working with miners and property owners, you know, going out onto sort of ranches and riding horses and doing all sorts of things. Here I'm working with surfers and gallery managers. The people who come to our workshops, they do have something in common, which is that desire to tell a story and to flex their creative muscle again. And I think for a lot of writers, or for a lot of people who want to write but have never written, our workshops provide a really creative space, a really safe space in which they can learn the tools that they need to in order to share their stories. So I'll give you a little sense of how I run my workshops, just so you know. So if you are in regional Australia, maybe you might want to come along to one in your area. Or if you're in a metro, you might want to create this kind of a space yourself, because they're really good places to start writing. So what I do is I do a little intro, get people to introduce themselves and find out where they're at with their writing. And then we do a couple of writing exercises, drop them straight in there. So one of my favourites is to go get a plant from outside, and each person chooses their own plant and they bring it in, and they have to write 10 different descriptions of it. Which just forces people to go from something really simple like it's green, it's a stick, to once you get to 10, you have to become really creative and start looking for metaphors and looking for memories and using all your senses. So that's just a really good starter. Then we start to actually read stories, because obviously if you want to be a writer, you have to read. So we start to read some of the other stories that are online, and we start to talk about what makes a good story, what we like about what we're reading. Then we discuss, we brainstorm the topic, and once people are starting to think of their own lives and think of what they can talk about, that's when I get them to pull out their smartphones, and each person shares their nugget of a story idea, and we record it using voice memo or something. And the reason I do that is because when you first tell a story using your voice to a bunch of people who are becoming your friends in the workshops like this, you tell it in your voice. You tell it with your colloquialisms, and you tell the funny bits first, and you get your key plot points down. And it's really handy to keep a record of that, because once you sit down to write, sometimes we forget about it. We put on our writing voices and we start to get all formal, and we start to tell the backstory and all the boring stuff instead of just going straight to the good stuff. So I use that recording that people make I ask them to play it back to themselves when they start writing, and try and use some of those colloquialisms that they themselves came up with. And that opportunity is also a chance for other people to respond to your story idea. And I think as writers, one of our biggest hurdles is this mental editor, which tells us this is not a good story, this is a boring story, nobody cares. And when you have an audience of people, of kind people, and people in your community sitting there listening to your story saying, that's a great story, you have to write that down, please share that, then suddenly that mental editor gets a little shut up and you can start writing. So, and a lot of other open producers who I spoke to about workshops have said that that's probably one of the key things that our workshops provide for people, is an initial audience to give you the confidence to write and to publish, which is pretty
Emily,
special.
Yeah, sorry, can I just jump in with a question? Just from that point, once they've got the story online, what happens in terms of, do you give them any specific feedback or sub-edit, or what happens before it's published?
Yeah, so I suppose there's other tiers of feedback. Sometimes you get a story and it's ready to publish as soon as someone writes it, because it's just perfect. But other times people might email to and fro after a workshop, or I'll run a second workshop where people come back with what they've written, and as a group we read it again, and we help jiggy around the structure and chuck in some metaphors and that sort of thing. But yeah, sometimes we email to and fro, and I help them cut words, because it's quite difficult to write a short story. It's actually harder to write a really long one, and 500 words, there's only so much you can get in. So yeah, it's about keeping people on topic. And yeah, so yeah, there's other, and of course it comes into our moderation queue, so we also have an opportunity to ask if people want feedback before it becomes published, which is pretty cool. It's like having a free editor, really. Yeah,
that's a big part of what we do. And just because we might get short on time in a minute, I'll just jump ahead a little. because I wanted to ask you just about, like, you talk about the magic in terms of some of these really special moments that come out of these workshops sometimes. So did you want to share one or two of those?
Yes, I'm going to share one from another region that I was told by Jane Curtis. She's in Bendigo, so Central Victoria. So they have the Wood End Library Book Group, which has been a writing group that's been meeting for about a year now and has undergone changes in open producers but has pushed through, and it's become a really tight-knit group where, as time has gone on, the stories that they've shared have been more and more personal, and people are becoming more openly vulnerable, and it's just become a really safe space where they also encourage newbies as well. So it sounds like a pretty wonderful group. There's a 70-year-old guy called Rob who had been going for about a year, and during last year we had a theme called Endings, and Rob wrote a really beautiful piece about him and his wife and their relationship, and how even though they experienced real differences of faith, his wife was not religious and he was, that their relationship survived and right up until the time that he lost his wife. And one of the other people in the workshop asked him if they'd ever had children, and he paused and said no, and then said, actually, the person I'm writing about is my partner Ray, and I'm gay. So in this workshop he came out for the first time, and so with a lot of encouragement from the other people in the group, he went back into his story and changed the pronouns so that they were correct, not she, and they were now he. And he went ahead and published that story on a national forum. You can't get much more magic than that, really.
Okay, I see tears, and I'm feeling a little bit teary myself. I mean, we all feel that way. So.
Yeah, and a lot of open producers said, when I asked them what their one great thing was about workshops, they all said, we cry, we laugh. You know, almost every workshop there's tears, friendships are made, you get to know people, and this sort of secondary thing happens where this new creative community is born in a community that, you know, in metropolitan areas, I think it's easy to assume that everyone knows everyone in regional Australia. And while that does ring true often, sometimes people don't know each other properly. They've never worked together. They didn't realise that they were both into writing. And these workshops can sometimes create a new cohesion in a community, which certainly happened in Mount Isa. Even though there's no open producer there now, there is a writers group that was set up by one of our best writers from Mount Isa, Samantha Scragg. So do I have time to mention her piece?
Yeah.
I'll finish with that. So I'll just tell you a little bit about Samantha. She was the librarian where I was running workshops, and she had never come to a workshop, but she'd sort of observed them, found out about ABC Open, and submitted a really astonishingly beautiful story about being a young woman leaving Mount Isa for the city, for the big smoke, Brisbane, just running out of money, everything caving in, and having to drive home and start again in her old town, which is very challenging for any of us. And it's such a beautiful story. It's called The New Old Kid in Town, and we've actually turned it into a video slideshow that hopefully someone will be tweeting right now, and you can also read the story online. So I was so moved by that story, I got her into the radio, and it went on air, and she went on to produce dozens of ABC Open pieces, and has now set up a writers group in Mount Isa that she runs, where she has 14 regular writers in this remote mining town. It's absolutely incredible. She also created a writers' festival in Mount Isa since, and my favourite, this is my favourite, is that she performed slam poetry at a rodeo amongst bush poets.
That's great.
It's such a wonderful outcome, and I really, really wish I had been at the Cloncurry Merry Muster when she performed that. Yeah.
That's so great, Emily, and that's just a reminder for anyone who has a chance to look at Twitter. So all these stories that we're talking about, here's all our tags again. Can you see that? So do get on and have a look, because we're posting the links, and it's they're such great stories, and I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things that Emily said. So 500 words is the name of one of our projects, but it's also the rough length most of our stories are, because we find that works best on the web. They're the most shareable, and you tend to get one episode in detail from someone's life rather than a long drawn-out story. So we find that works really well, that length. And in terms of communities, we do find our online community is really supportive, and I just love looking at the comment thread on a lot of these stories, because you see writers getting to know each other online from various parts of Australia. So now it's time to hear from a real writer. So Jessie, so Jessie, interestingly, didn't come to workshop. She just got going and started publishing. So Jessie, tell us a little bit about how you started writing for Open.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, my name's Jessie Ansons, and I've been contributing to ABC Open for the last 2 years. So I didn't go along to one of the workshops, but one of my friends did. So her name's Sally Egan. She went to a workshop at a local library, and she told me all about it. So up until that point, I was kind of a lonely writer, which I think most writers are, sitting at home working on my one big novel, you know, my one chance of getting published, and doing a chapter here and there, but not actually taking it seriously. And then my friend Sally said, oh, I went to this workshop and I've written a story and now it's up online, and she shared the link with us so we could all read it. And I thought, wow, this is probably something that I can do. So the topic that month was an act of rebellion. So I thought about, oh, when's the time that I've rebelled in my life? And I'm like, yeah, I can write a story about this. So I wrote it all up and added a picture to it and sent it off online. And within a couple of days, I got the email back saying, you've been published, you're up online now. And there was a link, and suddenly there it was, and I could share that with my friends and family, and yeah, there I am, a published author. I could say to people, oh, I'm a published author, you know, because you've got your link up there online. And so that was how I got into ABC Open. I liked the fact that as soon as it's up there, you get feedback from people. So as Emily said and Vanessa said, there's comments that you get from people. They talk about the things that they liked. They might mention things that they found confusing or things that they wanted to hear more about. So each month, as I wrote another story, I did improve each month, because I got to think about, well, what comments did they, you know, which particular stories did they like and why? So it meant that each month I was getting that little bit better every time I wrote one. So I'll tell you about one of my favourite pieces. One of my favourite pieces was for a topic called The Things We Do for Love. And around about that time, I just found out that I was pregnant with our son. And so I just found, even though I was completely overjoyed, all of the medical appointments were just insane. So we had to go see a doctor, an obstetrician. You get prodded and pricked, and you get blood tests, and then you have to go along to an ultrasound appointment. And so I wrote about one particular experience, which was the first ultrasound appointment when we first met our son, or first saw him up on the black and white screen. And I talk about how I had to drink 2 litres of water, and I wasn't allowed to wee for a whole hour, and it was just agony. And we were driving along to the medical centre, and every bump that we hit in the road, I'd squeak, and I'd tell my husband not to talk to me because I just couldn't bear thinking of anything else. And we were sitting in the waiting room waiting to go in for my scan, and there was this giant fish tank in the waiting room, and it's bubbling away, and you know what it's like when you're busting to go to the toilet and there's these sound of running water. And then what happens, so we're still waiting to go in, and this guy from the aquarium comes in to clean the fish tank. So right next to me, this empty bucket, and he's got a hose from the fish tank, and he's emptying the water into this bucket right next to me. So we eventually got in to have our scan, and when I looked up and saw my tiny little son up on the screen, it just made me realise that all of it is worth it, and I completely forgot about the pain that I was in straight away. So
and can I just say,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt, but I knew that story before I knew you, because I just loved it, and I've used that in workshops, that story, because it's a great example of what I love to teach people, which is 3 different ways to open a story to hook the reader, and one of them is to start with the senses, and you just captured the physical sensation of needing to go to the toilet so well. And I also just wanted to jump in also to say, like Jessie said, how exciting it was to have her story there online so instantly. We at the other end also get really excited when a story pops up in our queue, and especially if it's a good one. And Jessie's a great writer. She's got a great sense of humour and weaving a couple of different story elements that all come together at the end, which is obviously a great technique, I suppose, which some people are taught and some people just have naturally. So you've talked to us about that idea of just getting better over time through the exercise of publishing. So where are you at now in terms of, like, how many stories have you published with us, and where's your writing headed?
Yeah, so in December last year, I was sitting down to write my ABC Open story for the month, because I'm getting into a bit of a habit now. Every month I look at the topic and write, and I'd realised that I'd written 20 500-word pieces. So in 2 years, they quickly add up, and just in 2 years I had 20 pieces completed. So that's so 20 500-word stories. That's 10,000 words that I'd written, and it was like a mini memoir, because when I put them together in chronological order, I realised that I'd covered quite a fair bit of my life, and through the topics of ABC Open, I'd covered the kind of important parts of my life as it went through. So that was pretty exciting, because then I had a memoir, or a 10,000-word memoir. So I called that my accidental memoir, and I've published a bit on ABC Open that links all of them together and shows you just how much of my life that I've covered. So it's a really nice way to journal or to capture all of those important moments of my life without even realising it. So that was my accidental memoir. Where my writing's taken me. So ABC Open's been so supportive. I went into the radio studio and had one of my stories. I read it out loud, and it was produced for radio. So that was awesome to see, to be able to tell people to tune in, and you hear your story and you hear your own voice, and they put music to it and sounds to it, and that was great. I also read one of my stories aloud at the Newcastle Writers' Festival last year for ABC Open. So it's taken me lots of places. I still haven't finished that novel, by the way. So that's two years ago. I was still writing it, and all of this other stuff has taken over. But it's really motivating, and it's nice to get those little wins and improve your writing and meet people as well. So you get used to the regular contributors, and when they comment on your piece, you go and comment on their piece, and it's a really nice online community.
And I'll just jump in, because I just wanted to remind everyone, so Jessie mentioned that her story was produced for radio. We'll tweet that link, and we'll tweet a link to Jessie's, all her work on our site, her 10,000-word memoir. But also I forgot to mention or remind you guys out there as well, do tweet us as well if you've got anything you want to ask these guys. We've got room in our schedule to do that. And just one final thing from Jessie, I just wanted to put to everyone, I guess, like, what elements do you think make a good story? And I suppose as well, like, have there been any themes that that drew that out of you, I guess, of our 500 words themes?
Yeah, did you want me to answer first?
Yeah.
So I found I find the themes that are really, like, a bit more specific, like an act of rebellion, or your greatest fear, or your first memory, because they're all kind of specific themes, and everybody has one of those things. I find them the most interesting, because it suits that 500-word topic, because you need to keep it down to a short number of words, and if it's something quite specific, that seems to get the best comments. If you try and fit too much into a 500-word story, so if you try and tell, and then he did this, and then he did that, and then we went here, and then we did that, it's not really what people want to know. It's almost like people want to know in great detail what happened for just one tiny Event, rather than a high-level overview of a whole lot of events. So where I've kind of focused in and described something in detail, like sitting in the waiting room while somebody empties a fish tank, that's the type of stories that I found got the best feedback.
Thanks, Jessie. And I do encourage everyone out there to read some of Jessie's work, because I've been a fan before I actually met you online. So good work, and I hope you keep writing.
Well, I've got no plans to stop, so yeah.
Good, keep going. So yeah, and one thing I keep reminding myself and then forgetting to mention, but Jessie triggered it, is the issue of copyright. So, you know, Jessie's effectively started a memoir and written some really cracking short stories. We don't take copyright away from writers, so anyone who publishes anything on our site, they keep the copyright. So they've just licensed the story for us to publish. That means that you are free to send it elsewhere. Send it to competitions, festivals, self-publish, send it to a publisher. We have had some writers publish some of their short pieces in other forms, so don't be put off by that. And also, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about this idea of themes as well toward the end, but now I want to throw to Ian, because basically we're trying to travel through the process. So how do we find people? Then, you know, here's a real one, here's Jessie, what's her experience been? But then what happens in the inner workings of the ABC? Because a lot of eyes get on these stories, and we're really keen to get as big an audience as we can for them. So let's talk to Ian Walker about what happens once it's published. If it's a good story, where does it go? Hi, Ian.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you got my roses. So my job at Open is called Supervising Producer, and it kind of encompasses a whole bunch of things across video, text, audio. But I'm the guy who gets notified about your good writing, and then it's my job to sort of pimp it around the ABC in the nicest possible way to get you the largest possible audience. And it's a real privilege, I've got to say. And I do want to sort of earlier on about the writers at ABC Open being the kind of bedrock of the whole project, because what we do around our writers is that we build things, and we sometimes build their text into radio, as Jess has sort of told you about, and yeah, I'm in audio. You know, I got to hear that and put it on the radio, and also we get to grow up some of our text into video. So I'm going to tell you about some of the ways that happens. But just to go back a step, when you put your piece into our project, there's a lead moderator of that project who reads every single piece that comes in. That's the first point of contact. Vanessa's been that person many times for many of the projects. When we're choosing, I get notified via an email list about what we think are some of the best stories that have come in on a daily or every couple of days basis in that project. I get to read it then. I'll choose stories that will go up on our front page, and that's the first place where you might get a bit more traction for your story. So you'll make it to the very front page of ABC Open. Then there's some other things that we do on a regular basis. For every project, every monthly 500 words project, we get together a small committee of producers and myself, get to choose what we think are the best ones that might work for radio in that month. And we go back to the author. This is what happened with Jess, and her one of her pieces was called The Monet, as I remember, if I remember rightly, Jess. And a very funny piece that worked really well for radio because it had a lot of references to audio and a pop song, Madonna's Vogue. And I won't spoil the story. You can go and check it out online. But or the link we're sending out where she reads it on radio. But it's a very cute love story about jumping up and down on a bed to Madonna's Vogue. And it's very musical and very, very kind of really great for the ear. So a lot of our writers actually write for the ear, which is a great thing for me and the team when we're trying to choose what's going to work for radio. So there's monthly spots on Radio National where you can have your profile raised and get a national audience. Then there's other things that we do with specific projects. Vanessa referred to our mental health project last year called Speak Your Mind. Now that was a a kind of overwhelming success. What we asked of people was to just write in the first person 500 words about how mental illness affects their life. And we got first person stories about almost every single mental health condition you can think about. Very brave and honest and full-on stories. And there were 400 of them over the period of a couple of months. And we fed those into other channels across Mental Health Week in October. And we've also tweeted a couple of the results of that. So some of them, at least 4 or 5, were recorded and played on Radio National Breakfast in Mental Health Week. So that's a very large ABC audience. The same audio was offered to local radio, so you might have heard it on your local ABC radio station in the regions. And also there were other stories selected that we thought we could grow up into video. So there were 10 videos from memory that were produced out of the written text and grown up into video stories that were beautifully made with the assistance of our producers, or made by our producers, and featured on ABC2 and are still on iView if you want to check them out. So that's a model that we're using more and more in Open as we move forward, that we believe that when we ask people to write things for us, and we're expanding the kinds of things that we're asking people to write for us. One of our newest projects that I'm leading is one called Open Drum. It's a collaboration with the Drum Online, which some of you might know. It's the ABC's portal for opinion pieces. So, you know, in the old-fashioned newspaper, there were always opinion and editorial pieces in the middle of the paper, written by, usually highfalutin opinion makers. They might be academics. They might be, lower class commentators, or some of your favourites like Andrew Bolt, or the ABC's own Annabelle Crabb, and those kind of people end up on the Drum Online. But we've made a space for you people out there to write your own opinion pieces if you have a lived experience around a theme that's knocking around the news. So every fortnight we choose a new theme, and so we're asking people to write opinion pieces, which is a different kind of writing again. And some of those are now ending up on Radio National and on local radio. And again, another opportunity for people who have lived and who have some ideas about how to change things. So I think that's my general rant for how things go.
I'll jump in with a question, and I hope everyone out there can see how enthusiastic us ABC people are about hearing the voice of real people. We love our jobs, and we highly value people that get involved. And apart from wanting to raise your profile, we are also very aware of the fact that you're often sharing something quite personal. So you are dealing with real people at the other end. You're not just sending these personal stories out into the ether. And we've got a good sense of how to keep the integrity of who you are when these things get sent around. So anyway, what was I going to ask you? Final question for Ian was just, we've kind of rolled out all these new projects lately, and they're all doing really well. What kind of ideas bubble around in these meetings in Sydney about what else we could do with writing?
Well, I think there's some exciting things going around in the world of curation and how to present the best of what you writers out there bring us. One of them that we've played around with in a small way so far, but we hope to do more of in the future, is a template, an online magazine template called Creativist. And you might not know the brand of that, but you will have seen the template where it's a full page, looks great on an iPad. It's nice, clean writing, big photos, and just a lovely interactive text format that's really lovely to read and sit down and read kind of quite intimately. And so what we're hoping to do into the future is perhaps collect the best 10 500 words offerings of the month and put them together in a perhaps a monthly output in a different format apart from our website where people can enjoy them. The great advantage for that is there's also distribution available like Kindle. So we might be able to provide in a bundle that you could download for free in Kindle. So we're looking at all those kind of distribution options, and I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities for people who write for Open to have their material distributed, internationally even in a very short time or for the future. The other thing I wanted to just mention is that the importance of, I think you can see how excited we get about what we do in our work, but it's not just that for me. It's actually about being at the forefront of crowdsourcing audience-made material more broadly, and I think that that's the future of media. There's a lot of sort of hype around these things, but I really do think that the top-down model of broadcasting, which is the old school method where I came from. I'm used to be a print journalist. I was a radio and TV documentary maker, and I've done a lot of things in the old school. But it's very challenging for someone like me who's excited about it to sort of think about how upside down it is, where the audience can run the agenda basically and grow up both issues and ideas that we've never thought about, because we don't have all the answers as media makers. There's a great large pool of creative people out there, and it's you.
That's great. What was I going to say next? Okay, we've just got to wrap up now. So before I come to a final question for everyone, I just wanted to show everyone, back to my screen share, the two main projects that we talked about today. Just so if you, let me see, if you're wanting to check out some of the stories or think about possibly contributing, this is our current theme for 500 words. So as I said, it changes every month. You can see some of the old ones under the title there. This is a really great theme, Lost in Music. And as Jessie said, the best stories are teasing out all the detail from one moment. So we're asking you to write about a time when you got lost in a single piece of music and explore that experience as a snapshot of your life at that time. And of course music is the portal for emotions, or the key. So it's a great way to provoke good writing, I reckon, this theme. And currently for Open Drum, that's the opinion project we have, the theme is volunteering. That one you've got to keep an eye on because it changes, the turnaround's fast. So both of these, don't deliberate, just write it, just get it out. Those are the two things I wanted to direct you to. And I just had one final question for everyone. I wanted to thank everyone out there who's watching this, but also thanks so much to Jessie, Ian and Emily for taking part today. And just a really, really quick final question. I wanted to ask each of you what you think your best single tip would be to improve your writing. So I might start in the order that we appeared. So Emily?
Just write as often as you can every day, if you can. Yeah, that will improve your writing. It's like doing push-ups.
And Jessie?
I knew Emily would steal mine. No, I would probably say write every day, yes, but get it published as well. So you actually need people to read it, and you need people to read your writing who aren't your mum or your sister or your cousin, because they're going to tell you they love it. So you need it to get out there to a wider audience, and so write every day, but try and get people who you've never met before to read your stories as well.
And Ian?
I guess would be write what you know from the heart and in great detail, and write crap, and then move on from there. Don't be scared of writing crap first.
Yeah.
Get it on the page. And I'll just go back to what I continually reinforce in my workshops, which is look at your opening. So do what Ian said, just get it on the page, but then revisit your opening, because if you've got a cracker opening paragraph, you'll hook the audience and they'll keep reading. And if that means trying 3 different styles of opening just to get out of your own habits, go for it. So thanks to everybody, and I learnt quite a bit from this. And just one final reminder, if you are a twitting type person, check out these hashtags, because all those links that we talked about today are some of the best content we've got that we'd love you to look at. So all those links will be up there on those hashtags. And in case you couldn't read that, we're at ABC Open, and we're also hashtag ABC Open. And the festival is hashtag DWF15. So thanks so much to the festival for letting us have this session. It's great to be part of a very exciting festival. So, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Valentine's days.
Bye.
Bye.